and welcome to the Cheer Up Podcast. I'm your host, Kara Hunt, and with me today is the beautiful Sherry Swalwell, author and speaker, Sherry Swalwell. How are you doing today, Sherry?
I am doing great. Can you believe that we are in the middle of May already? This is crazy.
I know, right? It's like okay, so people have heard me say this like so many times. I'm like starting to sound like a broken record, but time seems to be flying, like right by.
It does.
It's just first, it's like we were so excited. Here comes fall weather and Thanksgiving and Christmas and decorating, and then New Year and everything else. And then next thing you know, boom, it's almost summer.
I know.
Because technically, at least here in our neck of the woods, they say, I say they because I don't know, that Memorial Day or May 31st marks the first day of summer. Am I right?
I think it's June. I think it's like June 2019, 2021, something around there.
Okay.
But hey,
well,
if
no,
that's
not the
their
official day.
Mark, if that's their unofficial mark, go for it.
Yeah, they say, they're just like, from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Pretty much. It's like, because that's when the barbecues start, the backyard hangouts, and everything. And so they're like, so it's the unofficial start, I guess, to the holiday, but people always want to have extra time, right, Sherry?
Oh, absolutely. I will never complain to have more summer.
I know, right? Have you ever noticed how birthdays have now become birth weeks and birth months?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden it was a birthday, right? The day of your birth. We're going to celebrate, your birth and everything else. Then it's like, it's my birth week. It's my birth month, And so I'm just waiting for the quarterfinals and the semifinals to show up, right?
And we wonder why we're in debt.
Right? So
I think our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents knew what it was like. Just slap a birthday cake on the table. Nobody gets a present. Call it good. No. Now we got the whole week.
I know, right? And it's like, so now it's like, it's like all of a sudden, and it just seems like the celebrations get bigger and bigger. And, it's like, if I don't know, Mike, because in the back of my mind, and I'm probably not thinking about this correctly, but in the back of my mind, so let's just say my husband took me to Paris on like my birthday the previous year. It's like, I can't go back to just having cake and friends over, right? It's like, but you took me to Paris last year, then this year it's got to be Milan, right?
There you go.
Next year, the following year, Rome, because it's like, how do you go back from that? It's like,
you have
I don't know.
It's a point.
Yeah, it's like to me in my mind. Yeah, it's like, don't set me up, right? Just don't give me that hope, because I'm telling you, and this is probably why I've never been to Paris. Or Milan or something like that, because he's like, I know her. If I take her once, she's going to be, and then the next birthday, I'm like, oh, sweetie, we're just going to have a nice romantic dinner. And it's like, hey, in Rome? In France? He's like, what? No, so it's just one of those things, me personally, it would be like a letdown every year, because the next year would just have to be better, right?
Exactly.
So I'm one of those. It's like, let's just keep it simple, because once you go big, I'm going to always expect big,
Exactly.
And speaking of big, how big is our God, right? It is just such an amazing thing. And today we're going to be talking about, I'm sorry, thanks for everyone for tuning into the Cheer Up podcast, and everything. And this is the third week of our encouragement series. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to the previous week's episodes where we talked about how to encourage others in the first episode, and then being a blessing to people in the second episode of the week. And today we're going to continue that discussion further, and we'll be wrapping it up next week. So for this particular month of May, we are talking about the encouragement, how to encourage others, how to bless others, how to be encouraged, and just kind of everything along those lines. And so we just want to thank everyone for all the encouragement that we get from those of you who share our social media posts, who leave comments, who engage in the Cheer Up Podcast group, who share our tweets and everything like that. And especially those who are listening in other countries, we want to say hi, hello, we see you. And we also just want to say thank you to everyone who subscribes, who downloads, and to the podcast. And so we thank you for doing that. And it's so awesome because I know you guys get like a notification every time we do that, so you won't miss a new episode of the podcast. But it also helps others find that as well. So speaking of encouragement and blessing, you're actually encouraging and blessing others. Like by doing that, because somehow by the algorithm, I think that a lot of these platforms have set up, when you do that, it kind of makes you easier for others to find you. So, in a way, you're kind of encouraging and helping others as well when you do that. So thank you so much. And again, to go back and check any previous podcast episodes, you can just find us anywhere on any major podcast platform. And now, I think in last year, Facebook introduced podcasts on Facebook, and for the mobile phones only at this point. And so if you have a mobile phone and you have the Facebook app on your phone, then you can also listen to the Cheer Up podcast while you scroll, listen to, comment, and everything on Facebook. So you could just minimize it and still hear the podcast while you read your local news, updates from your friends, and make comments, on different pages and things. So, and we just wanted to add that because that's something new that Facebook has added, and we're successfully on there now. So that's a good thing. And again, today we're going to be talking about encouragement. So the definition of encourage, according to the dictionary, is to give courage to give or increase confidence or of success, to inspire with courage, spirit, or strength of mind, to embolden, to animate, to incite, to inspirit. Deuteronomy 3, but charge Joshua and encourage him. So again, it means to give courage to give or increase confidence of success, to inspire with courage, spirit, or strength of mind, to embolden, to animate, to incite, to inspirit. And they give Deuteronomy 3 as an example where it talks about, but charge Joshua and encourage him. So when we're talking about encouragement, encouraging, and being encouraged, this is in the spirit that we are talking about. To give you courage to do something, to give you permission to, or even the want or the desire to just go ahead and encourage others, whether you're being encouraged or not, to help increase the confidence of success in someone else, to inspire someone else to do something that they may be afraid to do, to kind of lift their spirits, of strength and mind, to help them embolden, to do something, to help them incite them to do a good thing, or to inspirit them, to uplift them, to give them something to do, like an uplift their spirit, to give them to do something like when they're down or, and out. And you could just be that uplifting person to just encourage them and to bless them and, a certain way or whatnot. So do you agree with that, Sherry?
Oh, absolutely. And it's so funny because I'm sitting here listening to your definition and I'm like, oh my word, there's no way that I can live up to that. But you know what? That's the cool thing about God, is that it really doesn't take much to encourage somebody, but look at all the benefits that come from it for the person that you're doing it for. So, I mean, that's huge.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes I don't think we realize like all the benefits and everything that comes with all of that, right? Until afterwards.
Exactly.
you know, until afterwards. And, you and I, um, just, you know what? Because, okay, so during this encouragement series, we've been talking about how encouragement and blessings kind of go, encouraging and or blessing someone goes hand in hand. And you know what else I think could possibly go with that? Not quite, but it kind of falls under the same umbrella. Thankfulness.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, I think thankfulness kind of comes up under that. And, I remember something recently just happened, a very, could have been tragic situation, with one of my sons. And it was just such a God awesome thing, just how it all turned out. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and actually I'm going to go ahead and say her name. Hi, Kim, in case you're listening, and we just were kind of just talking about that particular event. And she was saying, sometimes it seems like thank you just doesn't seem to be enough when we're thanking God for something miraculous, and everything else. And I'm like, I know, right? It's like you could just say, thank you, Father God. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, thank you, thank you, And it just doesn't seem like enough. It's just like we could do more. And she's like, I know, right? And she said, I think she said she had been studying that for a minute for something. And she was kind of talking about, how in the Old Testament, and Kim, forgive me if I'm getting this kind of mixed up, but how in the Old Testament, like when God would do something big and like give someone a dream or something like that, and they really wanted to thank God, that they would like write on rocks or build like a rock thing. And I think they would build an altar sometimes and sometimes have a fire. So of course we, again, depending on what neighborhood or what city you live in, you may not be able to do something, that big or whatnot. But we were talking about how cool it would be to, and as I was talking about this with Sherry, it's just like, how cool would it be to just start like a encouragement, blessing, thankfulness rock garden, right? Meaning when you get a rock, we would write on it exactly what we're thankful for that day, what miracles God did that day. You could just say, today is January 3, whatever year it is, and this is what happened, and this is the miracle that God did. We could take a permanent marker, we could get a small rock, big rock, small boulder or something, and just kind of have like a thank you rock garden, right? And every time something like that happens, you can just put it, in your front yard, in your flower garden, in your backyard, wherever we can physically see it as an encouragement to us, right? It goes back to the encouragement thing. And as a reminder and thankfulness of God that we still serve a God of miracles and a God who answers prayers. And the awesome thing about that, right, is that depending on how big they are, you can just write on them and they're there. And, sometimes I think rocks eventually sometimes become a part of the soil, sort of. And depending on how big they are, I mean, like who wants to, if you happen to pack up and move to another location, they could be difficult to move, but you don't even have to move them, right? Because the next person who moves into that house, how awesome would it be for them to go out for a walk in their garden or to plant flowers and they see all of these things, right, that you have written over the years about the different miracles and answers to prayers that God has done, and you have them now, and then the next person gets them. And that encourages them, whether they know God or not. It's encouragement. It can inspire them if they already know God. And it's thanks God. It's a thankfulness to God because rocks are here forever. You can crush them up and everything else, but for the most part, they are here forever. It's like part of our natural landscape, and everything. And like, how cool is that? Do you think that's an awesome idea, Sherry? I actually think this is something I may try to start.
I
I'm just thinking,
love this idea. Yes.
If I had started when we built this house so many years ago, how big would my rock garden be, right?
Right.
I can always start today. So I'm sorry, I was talking over you. Go ahead and tell me what you think.
Oh no, I think it's awesome. For somebody who loves a blessings journal and a blessings jar, I think a blessings rock garden is even better because you're right, rocks are forever. So you can never get rid of them. What a blessing it would be if you move for the other people. And I'm even of the belief that if those people, and maybe this is because I'm a fiction writer, but I don't think so because I think God can do anything. Well, I know that God can do anything. So I'm not saying God would want to, but he could if he wanted to. If those people who took over your house, if they were like, hey, God, what in the heck happened here? Can you tell me the story? He could even tell them what the exact blessings were. Like, that's how awesome. And even if nobody else was to find out here on earth, but when you go up to heaven someday, if you have another believer who came and bought your house, think of how much fun it would be going up. They would be like, oh my gosh, so that's what happened? I always wondered what that one meant. I wondered what that one meant. I wondered what that one meant. Like, how fun. I mean, it could go on literally. It could change the trajectory for eternity.
It could, right? And again, it encourages you while you live there, right? Because you're like, when something happens and you're like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, how are we going to get through this? And you look at your rock garden and you go, oh, I know how.
Exactly.
I can look at everything. Look at my garden. Look at that. They're all a testament to the goodness of God, right? With what he has done. And the awesome thing about that is that even if they sink into the ground, right, over the years, even if they sink into the ground, and everything else, depending, if you have some of the smaller ones or maybe some of the medium-sized ones. And how cool is it when people go to dig up to plant a garden years from now, decades from now, half a century from now, they go to dig up something, or someone's building a new house or something, or they just planting a garden, and they're like, what's this down here? Right?
Exactly.
And then they're like, oh, wait, look at this. So one of the families that lived here, this is what is a cool thing that happened. Like, how cool is that? I don't know.
Exactly.
I just think we're onto something here. I just think that, that would be such a cool thing, to do. Of course, it's not exactly how they would do it in the Old Testament and everything, but I just think the way that Kim was describing it is just such a cool thing. And it just makes me think of, like, if I had done that over the past 16 years, then, like, how cool would my rock garden be?
Exactly.
But you know what, Sherry? It may not even be too late because you and I both keep prayer journals, right? And answer prayer things. We could just start gathering rocks and randomly start putting things on there. When we have the time and we go, oh, okay, today I'm going to go back to 1999. I'm going to put this one on there. And everything else. And so I don't know. I just think that's just such a cool testament. And it's like something that we're hoping will be there forever, because sometimes, like we said, thank you just doesn't seem to be enough when someone encourages you, when someone blesses you. So, and that's even a person in human form, right? When people have done something for you and you're like, thank you, but you wish there was more you could say, right?
Exactly.
Imagine that gratefulness. Imagine that gratitude on more of a deeper level, because God Almighty himself, has done something for you that no one else could have done. You're just like, I think you was just definitely not enough. And so it's like putting something like that, and maybe for the next generations, if your children end up living in that house, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, whether it's passed down or they have it, whatever. I don't know. I just think what a legacy, right? What a legacy to continue to encourage and inspire and thank God all, at the same time. So if anyone was looking for your ideas, just how to encourage, if you just want to thank someone, thank God, right? The major encourager, the one who gives us all of our hope, all of our dreams, all of our visions, all of the good things, rather, good dreams, visions, and hope and everything else. So, and you just want to thank him, just think about taking a marker, writing it on stones, and just keeping them, around your house, and speaking of uplifting, and continuing to bless others and bless people. Today, we're going to be talking about how to do that. And if some of you, like or me, are more visual learners and you like learning things from books, then today is the podcast you want to listen to, because we're going to be talking about books by our very own Sherry Swalwell that talks about encouragement.
Thank you, Kara. So basically, it just goes back to what we've been talking about for the past month. God uses the different areas in our life and the different examples in our life and the different situations in our life. And if we are open and if we are willing and if we ask him, he'll then use those things to bless other people. So that's basically my books in a nutshell. Like, I wrote the books out of a time in my life or times in my life that I went through some pretty rough things. And I'm no different than anybody else. We all have gone through things. And I just like, I wanted to go around and I wanted to bless community, and I wanted to get away from myself and turn and be a blessing to other people. That's how my books got started. So when God told me that he wanted me, I think I've told this story before, so I'll tell a very abbreviated version. But when in 2006, our family had a miscarriage. And in 2007, I was really struggling because the baby was supposed to be born July 7th, 2007, so 7707. And I was really struggling, and I wanted to find hope, and I wanted to know that I would feel hope again. And then at the same exact time that we were dealing with the miscarriage and all of those feelings, my husband got really sick, and so we were dealing with that as well. And it was just a really rough period of our life. And I remember getting really angry with God, like at God, not at God. I was directing my anger towards him. He was my venting machine, my venting person. He's not a person, he's a God. He's not a machine either. But I was venting at God because I knew he could handle it. And I said to him finally, I said, you know what? I said, if I can't find this kind of book that I need and that will heal my soul, then I'm just going to write it myself. And I just threw that up there in 2007. And God took that anger and he turned it into a ministry. And he said, okay. And he was so patient and so loving and so kind. And you know what? I feel so much regret for venting at him and for yelling at him and things like that I've done as I've been growing in my faith with him. But he's big enough. He can handle it. And he knows where our feelings are coming from. He knows if they're coming from a place of disrespect or if they're coming from a place of just overwhelmed and frustrated, and I just need someone to listen to me. So anyway, when he told me that he wanted me to finish my book, which was probably 2011, so 4 years later, he said, finish your book. I had it all planned out. I was going to be a fiction writer. I was going to be traditionally published. I was going to be, that was going to be my only job. I was going to be able to quit all my other jobs. Life was going to be great. And that was not God's plan. I used to tell the story and say, I think God was up there laughing at me. But you know what? I don't think God was ever laughing at me. I think instead he was like, okay, Sherry, I see what you're saying, but if you would do it my way, it will be so much better. So instead of doing fiction, he took fiction away from me, actually, from 2011 until probably 2019, 2018. He wanted me to put that on the back burner. And instead, he had me write 20 devotionals, 3 compilation books, and a Bible study. And I am so grateful that God put me on the path that he did, and he had me do it the way that he had me do it, because he taught me so much. And my fiction, I think, is so much better now as a result of having written nonfiction first and learning how to self-publish versus being in the traditionally published field has been so eye-opening and helpful for me with my other jobs as well. But I wrote the nonfiction books, one, first and foremost, out of obedience to God, and second, as an encouragement to other people. I wanted to show people that no matter what you're going through, no matter what you're dealing with, God is right there and you can trust him. I was learning how to trust him during this process. So if you read my earlier books, they're very different from my later books because the trust muscle is grown, my depth of scripture and my relationship with God has deepened throughout my writing and throughout the years. So I wrote different series, or I broke them up into different series. So I have the adventure series. That's the one that talks mainly about when I lost my job, when I was dealing with learning how to trust him with our finances, learning that he's the one that actually is the one that pays me for the jobs that I do. It's not, I don't rely on my bosses for my paycheck. I rely on God. So that's the adventure series. There's 5 in that one. Journey from fear to faith, embracing God's path, trusting God's detours, faith-filled adventures, and living surrendered. So, and all of these are on my website under the nonfiction heading. If you want to go look at the covers, and if you want to check out where you can buy them, you can just click on the book and it will take you right to Amazon. Then the next series that I wrote was the Freedom series. And these all center around what we talked about last month. When God healed me from the fear of winter driving, when he healed me from depression, when he taught me how to heal and give me victory from panic attacks. And those are walking in freedom, living a life of obedience, surrounded by God's joy, and discovering my purpose. Those are all in the Freedom series. Then the Parenting series is very different from all of the other series. And the reason being is that the other series, God was actually teaching me things. So in the Adventure series, like I said, he was teaching me to rely on him for my finances. He was teaching me that I could trust him with job loss, that I could trust him with so many things. So it was really about trust and learning how not to live a life of fear. The Freedom series, like I just said, was talking about gaining freedom in the areas of depression, panic attacks, anxiety, fear of winter driving. But the Parenting series, I'm not teaching anybody anything. All I'm doing is coming alongside you and encouraging you. And I'm just showing you the different ways that God speaks to me through the different things that my kids say, through the different things the different lessons that I learned just interacting as a family with my husband and with my children. So there's no real in-depth discovery with the Parenting series. It's just more of, I'm a parent, you're a parent. You may not be a biological parent to children, or you might not have children in your home, but you love children and you work with children. Let me come next to you. Let me grab a cup of coffee and just have a conversation with you. That's what the Parenting series is. And then Moments with Jesus is the last of the devotional series. And this one starts out where my relationship with God grows and grew during the 6 books that I wrote for this one. And my level of trust and my level of just understanding God's real character comes through in that series. And that one's the Moments with Jesus. And it's Jesus' relationship, not religion, discovering God's heart, blessed by God's love, connecting through community, the importance of relationships, and growing God's way. That is probably one of my favorite series, just because the more I've gotten to know God and the more that I have just learned who he really is, the more I fall in love with God, and the more I learn who he really is. And the more I fall in love with God, and the more I learn who he really is. Like it's this unending cycle that just grows deeper and deeper and deeper. And I want that for you. I want other people to feel that excitement. I want quiet time and devotions to not be something that you have to do, but something that you look forward to doing. All of these devotions are, for the most part, really short. Some of them are a little bit longer, but they're all 30 days. So you can do them in a month. I actually think there's 32 in each one, but that's just because I like to give people extra. So you can read them as a devotion. You can read them as a story. You can read them however you want to read them. But they're meant to be just an added benefit, an added supplement to your time with God, your reading of his word, because that's first and first and foremost, the most important is delving into God's word. So that's why I wrote them. That's why they're out there. And they've all gotten new covers. They all have gotten, they've been freshened up. And so if nothing else, just head over to my website, Sherry Swalwell, CherySwalwell.com. Click on the nonfiction button and you'll be able to take a look at all of them and see if there's which one you would like to start with first. And then email us at cheeruppodcast@gmail.com and let us know which one that you wanted to start with. Head over to the Facebook group and start a conversation about them. See which ones other people are reading and which one you've been reading and what you've been getting out of it. There's nothing like being encouraged. There's nothing like going to the main source of encouragement, which is Jesus Christ himself. And the more that he fills us up, the more we then can go out and help fill up other people. There are so many people in life right now that are struggling. And as a whole, society is struggling, which I think makes it that much worse. When you're the only person that's struggling and everybody else is doing good, you can kind of, ride the ebb and flow. But when everybody is struggling and everybody is depleted and everybody is feeling like they just can't give any more to anybody else because they have nothing left, that's when we as Christ followers need to step up even more. That's when we need to be filled up by God so that we can then pour out to others, whether it's a trickle, whether it's a bucket full, whether it's whatever. God will let us know how much we need to pour out. But that's one of the privileges as well as one of the responsibilities of being a Christ follower. And in today's society, how much more is that needed than it was 2, 3, 4 years ago? So that's what I want to leave you with today. That's just kind of a little bit about me. I also have fiction books. Those also, I think, encourage through a fictional story. So if you like those more, head over to CherySwalwell.com and click on the fiction button, and then you'll see my fiction books. I'm almost done with the first series, and then I'm going to be starting another series, which I'm super excited about, that we can talk about another time. Head over to Kara's website, KaraRHunt.com, KARARHUNT.com. She has got her new book, Paper Dolls, out there, her debut novel. Seriously, go out and get it if you haven't already. It is amazing. I bought my own copy, even though I had read it before it even got published. I was one of the lucky ones because blessed ones. I don't believe in luck. One of the blessed ones because I got to, I'm one of her beta readers. But grab yourself a copy. You'll thank me. You really will. You'll send me an email and say, thank you so much, Sherry. That was one of the best books I have ever read all year. Come back next week. We're going to be talking a little bit more about books, a little bit more about blessing, a little bit more about encouragement, and a whole lot more about Jesus. So have a great week, and we will talk to you next week.